What's up, guys? It's Kevin and Steve, founders of Bombers and Sleeves, a clothing and lifestyle brand dedicated to artists, writers, musicians, or anyone else on a creative path, or anyone else looking to start a creative journey of their own. Our goal as a company and with this podcast is to encourage you to win the internal war of your creative pursuit. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, we sum it up in 3 words, and those 3 words are bomb your boundaries. What does that mean? Well, let's think about it. What has more intense, focused, explosive energy than a bomb? Not that much fucking else. And so we use that as a metaphor to say if you want to push past fear, doubt, anxiety, and make your dreams come true, make your creative vision come through, that's going to take intense, focused, explosive energy. And so you're going to hear that phrase a lot through the podcast. It's the slogan for the whole company. So that's what we're talking about when we say that. We have an awesome episode today. I'm really excited for this, man. This is just me and Steve, the founders of the company. We've been best friends for over 10 years now, and we are going to get deep today and tell you kind of how we met, how the idea for the company came along, our approach to life, our own individual and collective creative journeys together. And it's going to be great, man. So glad you guys are here.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for being here. This is Steve Lester, and just like Kev said, this is our first ever podcast. And so the goal, I think, for today is for you to get to know us just a little bit more, and I guess just know everything, man. Peel back the layers. We're going to tell you it all.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story when we think back on it, how we got to this point today, owning a company together. So kind of want to slow it down to begin the process. And I'm going to put this back on you, Steve, here. Take us back through like the early days, man. What first got you into music? What was your childhood like? What was your first introduction to it, man? Paint that picture for us.
Well, my parents always played music around the house, I was very fortunate. And I think as a kid, you learn music, I think specifically from what your parents are listening to, because that's just stuff going. That's the stuff going in your house. Dad was a really big Rat Pack, and he liked the 1950s, like Dion and the Belmonts, also like the Motown stuff. Mom was more of the rock and roll chick. She liked the Billy Joel. Introduced me to like Led Zeppelin, Elton John, kind of like the harder stuff. She was definitely a little bit more city. My dad was definitely a little bit more, I guess, conservative and just a laid-back guy. But I remember I was actually very fortunate because I fell in love with Sinatra. Like I went to a wedding. I think it was probably in 7th grade, and my brother and I were asked to like, hey, do you want to like go up there and sing a song? It was like a karaoke kind of thing. They thought we were going to probably sing something that was like modern on the radio or whatever, and we both knew all the lyrics to Fly Me to the Moon. And so there we are, just serenading the crowd, all the slow dance, a sea of slow dance. It was so cool. And I think that kind of like was my first time ever performing in front of a large group of people.
Wow. That's awesome, man. I had never heard that. That's awesome.
And then I think what really, as like time progressed, I started, listening to my own style of music, obviously on the radio. Fell in love with pop, definitely loved rock. I mean, being from Northeast Ohio, you have to love rock and roll. Like rock and roll is everything. Fell in love with Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, like all that stuff that I probably shouldn't be listening to when I was like young, but I was just always like sneaking it. And I remember my first CD I ever bought was a Parental Advisory CD, and it was the 311 CD. I think it was the self-titled, not the one with Creatures, but with like All Mixed Up and Down.
Yeah. Is that Sound System?
Maybe.
I can't remember either. I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah, it was like a blue CD. So I used to like sneak that in the room, and I bought it at Circuit City, but I made my brother pay for it because I wasn't 18 yet.
That's right, man. So yeah, for anyone listening out there, back in the days when there were CDs and parental advisory on it, just like getting into a rated R movie, didn't you have to show ID to get that? You
did. You had to show ID, yeah.
That's so crazy, man. So okay, so you said all the stuff you probably shouldn't have been listening to. I don't think that's not necessarily your words. You just were in a strict kind of Catholic.
It was strict, yeah. Right? I grew up in a Catholic household. I mean, it was church on Sunday. I went to a private school all the way till 7th grade because my mom didn't like the nun. And the nun taught 8th grade, and so my mom gave me an option. She's like, "I'll send you to public school if you want," which I really wanted to, because Catholic kids, I mean, come on, we're all kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
People are. It's funny. And I really wanted to go to public schools because I knew a few people out there. But, as soon as I did go to public school, I was known as like the preppy kid that like went to private school. And my parents didn't have that much money. It wasn't that like they were rich, but they made it work to kind of send me there. And yeah, I got a pretty good education there. And, but it was funny because when I was at private school, my cousins also went to private school with me, Mike and Dave Altier, who I think you know very well.
I know them very well. Shout out Mike and Dave.
Was that Mike and Dave? And Mike and Dave, I will say that they were probably the first people to introduce me to actually playing live music. And I'll never forget, it was like 8th grade. And as soon as I went to public school, I told everybody I was in a band. It was bullshit. I wasn't in a band. But I thought being in a band would be the coolest thing and I could probably make friends. But the only two people I knew that were in a band was Mike and Dave. And I would go over my Aunt Reenie's house, and Mike and Dave played drums, Mike played guitar, and they never let me be a part of the band. And they would just jam, and they let my brother sing for him, but not me. And it pissed me off. I was so mad that they wouldn't let me be a part of their band. And my brother was a decent singer, but he carried a tune like Sinatra. I had more of like the raspy kind of like, you know, just kind of the wild hippie kind of voice, I guess. And so eventually, later on in life, I did sing for their band.
Nice. What was that band called?
That was Wild Jack.
Wild Jack. I remember. I saw the old pictures, man, on the staircase. That's classic stuff right there.
Wild Jack is that's a whole rabbit hole we could go down. But I'll tell you what, it was one of the best times of my life. I mean, we were big in, that was like 99. So that was something like Buck Cherry was coming out, American Pearl, New American Shame, like the LA kind of cock rock was like the big thing. So we thought, you know, Jack Daniels was a must. Like if you didn't have a bottle of Jack Daniels in your hand, then you weren't really rock and roll. But that's what actually stemmed me into wanting to learn how to play guitar, because I couldn't play in their band. And so I was like, okay, I know I can sing, but I don't know how to play an instrument. And so 13, 14, I begged my parents for Christmas one year. I was like, please buy me a guitar. Please buy me a guitar. And they ended up doing it. And I got a 6-string that I still have in my basement. It's beat to hell. I think it's actually in 2 pieces because I like it just from traveling all the time. It just broke. But I learned G, D, and C. And my cousin Mike showed me those chords. And he's like, if you can play G, D, and C, you can play anything. It was kind of true. All those 80s like love ballads and stuff, G, D, and C.
That's crazy, man. So did you start out on acoustic? Because or were you trying to learn electric at the time?
I never played electric guitar in my life. I played it for a couple shows once. It just was not my thing.
Gotcha.
I'm not a shredder. I love just the feel of an acoustic guitar. You know me. We've done music for a very long time. You've never seen me with electric guitar in my hand.
I have not. It's been a funny thing. Well, so going back through there, when was that turning point when you decided that you wanted to go for music full time? Because now we've been through like the background of your family life, what got you introduced to music in the first place. What got you into rock music? There must have been something that sparked like that rebellious side in you. Was it just like being the middle child of your family, or was there something like deeper to it that you were like, nah, man, I got to break out of this and kind of do it in my own way?
I think rock to me always had the best choruses. I've always been just a sucker for great choruses.
Oh, okay.
And I just loved like I mean, as the years go by, my range has gotten a little bit lower, but I used to be able to sing like, you know, the hey, real high. That sounded terrible. I used to be able to sing that high, and I used to love a good rock chorus. Like nothing would pump me up more than just like Paradise City or something like that, you know. And so when I started playing in Wild Jack, when Mike and Dave finally let me be a part of the band, it was just straight rock and roll. And so they kind of just like, I don't know, it was just like, that's all we did. And there was no ballads. No one sang anything slow. It was just straight rock and roll. Everything was up tempo. And if it started to slow down, we just went even faster. So it was crazy. And it was in my blood. And I think like there was just nothing else I wanted to play but rock and roll. And like I said, being from Northeast Ohio, it's not crazy to say. I mean, you're kind of born with it. I mean, it's the birthplace of rock and roll. And, you know, you're surrounded by it. All the clubs we played up there, you had to be in a rock band. You could not do, I think, what we do here in Nashville, like the singer-songwriter stuff back in like the early 2000s up in Akron or Cleveland. They'd be like, well, we don't get this. It's boring. Like you had to have distortion. Yeah. And Mike Altier has this really, and he's going to laugh if he's listening to this, but he has this very famous line where the sound guy would always do a sound check. And his exact words, and we would just say it before he would say it, was, I need more distortion. I need more distortion. It was so funny. So then after playing in Wild Jack, I actually did start to kind of slow it down. I was kind of discovering, I was in college at the time. I was kind of experiencing music just kind of on my own. And I started getting more into writing, which I didn't write any of the songs in Wild Jack. Mike wrote everything. And the first time I wrote my first song, I thought it was the coolest thing in the history of the world. Because I was like, oh my God. But it was definitely not rock and roll. Of course, it was a ballad about a girl, standard. And it was horrible. It was the worst song ever. It was called By the Way. I do know the title, but I couldn't even sing it for you I forget everything else. But I knew it was called By the Way. And I would show some friends in school, and my friend Neil was like, oh man, this is really good stuff. So Neil started like playing rhythm guitar with me, and we just started playing little acoustic shows around. And then I realized I got more out of playing these little acoustic shows and these little huts and like coffee shops than I would being on like the rock stage. And even at the rock stage, I mean, dude, we opened up for some really big bands at the time, like 3 Days Grace and Velvet Revolver, Buck Cherry up in Cleveland. It was so cool.
That's awesome, man. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. And you're playing in front of a lot of people. But when you're playing those like intimate sets, it's like people are listening to my words and like, oh man, I'm really like feeling this guy. And that's what I think music now, it's still me. It's just like the connection with people when they can really feel you while you're singing and while you're playing. That is music to me, man. That's me. That's everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to feel something and move it. I love that, man. So, okay. So that was the turning point there. And then, yeah, so keep going.
After that, I'll never forget, I was at home in the basement, and it was like my last semester in college. I could have been a music major. I was like seriously like 1 credit away from doing it. And I decided not to do it because of one thing. I saw this show on GAC, and it was called The Hitmakers of Music Row. And Jeffrey Steele, Craig Wiseman, Tony Mullins, and Rob DiPiero. It was like a reality show. And these were the guys that were behind the big country songs. So I'm talking like Jeffrey Steele, man. What Hurts the Most, My Wish, all those big Rascal Flatts songs. And I never knew that you could actually make a career off of writing songs. And not actually be the front man, but you could just write songs, and oh my God, you can make like tons of money doing that and still connect to audience, and then still go out and perform those songs, and just still be like, I don't know. It was amazing. It was amazing. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know that job existed.
Yeah, definitely. The unsung heroes for sure. You wouldn't know about it until you really dove into a record and see who was behind it. You always assume the artist is writing all that.
And at the time, I was actually writing stuff that sounded a little bit more Southern, something a little more country. So I told my parents, guys, I'm moving to Nashville. And
what was that?
They were cool. They were really cool because they said, okay, if that's what you want to do, then go. And I had to save up my own money and find a place and everything. And I think they thought that I was going to probably come back with my tail between my legs in like a year or maybe like 6 months. But I never did. I've been here 11 years. And I'll tell you what, my parents, I love them. They gave me the support to do it. They had to think I was crazy. They just had to have thought I was crazy. And maybe I was, but I'm here and I did it. So
that's that word crazy though. That's all in perspective though. It was probably not so much that you were crazy, but that's just shocking because they probably didn't know anyone else that had done that. You were the first of your friend group to do it, right? Like where you're from. Well, I mean, Mike and Dave got out, and Neil. So, but you were the first to leave. So you kind of set that trend to move out there. So it's more of like, I don't know, maybe just paradigm shifting for them.
What about you, man? Okay, so and then we'll get to us in Nashville.
Yeah.
But let's go. Let's slow it down back to you. You growing up, getting into music. I mean, what introduced you to the sonic sounds of heaven, man?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So it is a long history, so I'll kind of edit it as much as I can. So I was raised by just a single mother. I was born in Mission Viejo, California. My parents divorced when I was about 2. My mom and I lived in Arizona, and at the time, we needed some help with some stuff. And so my grandma, my mom's mom, was living just over the border in Riverside, California. So from Phoenix, Arizona to Riverside, it's probably about an 8-hour drive or so, maybe a little bit shorter. But we would do that at least twice a month or so. And so on those long drives through the desert, I remember I would get in the back seat and lay down, and my mom would play some great tunes, man. She was into Rod Stewart, Roy Orbison, Creedence Clearwater, all that good stuff, man. So I remember I have one very distinct memory. I'm laying in the back seat. We're going across that Arizona desert, like looking over the mountains and the moon, and heard it through the grapevine. Creedence Clearwater is playing, and I don't know, man. I was just transported to a whole another place, dude. It was a really like pseudo spiritual thing, and from then on out I was hooked on the whole thing, man. Like music was never I thought it was such a trip growing up, man, when people were like, oh, I like music, like it's just like this option for entertainment. It was never an option for me, man. It was immediately like part of my entire existence. It was just defining doesn't even come close to it. It was a must, right? So I was consumed, obsessed with it. And I remember, so I split time. I have half brothers, and so I'd split time in California with them, and they were all like big motocross riders, and they loved Offspring. And that's kind of one of the things that they're older than me, but that's what we kind of bonded on. So when that Offspring Smash album came out, well, it was a cassette at the time. That was one of my first albums and cassettes that I got for Christmas, and that was the shift from like my mom's music, we'll say, from like the older stuff, which is still great, man. I love Rod Stewart and Roy Orbison and all that stuff, but that was my shift into into rock, man, because that was the day when, or those were the times when Offspring and Green Day was coming out, and I was just lit on fire, dude. I've always been like a really quiet, introverted kid, and growing up with a single mom, I didn't have direct siblings around to really like bring out any fight in me or anything. So it was all through music where I like got my I don't know, just like kind of that like fire from, and I was always obsessed with it from there. So,
I think that record Smash just celebrated 25 years, didn't it?
That sounds right.
Yeah, 25 years.
25 years. That's crazy, man.
That's awesome. Okay, so I know that you played in a band before, and I know the name Goodbye Harrison because I love that band. I want to know how that started.
Yeah, so flash forward, man. I was always like I said, I was always into music. I actually didn't start out wanting to be a musician though. I was a basketball player until like my freshman year of high school. I really wanted to be in the NBA, but I was completely naive with the amount of work that it took to get into it.
I've seen your J shot.
Yeah. And I'm only 6'1", which would need to make me a point guard, and I'm not anywhere near fast enough for that. So, all right. So right around 14, I listening to. I was at like a small high school, like small private high school, before I transferred to the one I graduated from. And there was a kick-ass guitar player there. His name was Scout Kingery, badass player, like super cool dude. I would go over there, and he had this old 60s Ludwig kit, literally like a collector's item. I would sit down there and just like try to play, and I came up with this like do da do do da, and that's like the best I could do. And I slot through it, but I was like, I didn't even think of drums as like being a viable option at the time until I sat down behind it, and my mind was fucking blown, dude. I started getting obsessed with it. We used to play every week, man. We'd slop our way through the whole self-titled Rage Against the Machine album, like the best we could. I'm sure it sounded like garbage, but we thought that we were badass. So my mom comes over one day and sees us practicing, and she's like, I didn't know you could play like that. And I was like, this is all I want to do. I was like, I'm obsessed. So I figured out a plan to save up for my first drum set, and cold called. I had to look through literally like the classifieds in the newspaper to look for a used drum set. And I like cold called this dude, and he was walking through an airport, and you could tell that I was like this little 14-year-old kid at the time. Like, excuse me, sir, I'm calling about the drum set. I think I have like $30 saved up. He's like, okay, man, what's gonna be? I don't know. It was gonna be like $300, cymbals included. I was like, all right, okay, cool. Well, so I didn't have the money at the time, but I come home one day, and going back to my grandma, she used to stay with us a lot. She was staying at the house at that time, and she's like, hey, come in the garage. I got a surprise for you. Well, it turns out she went behind my back and got this for me. And waiting in the garage is the brand of the kit was named Peace. uh, which is hilarious. But walk into the garage, man, see that kit there, and my mind was blown. It was the most crazy, like, exciting day of my life. Sitting down behind that, I was ready to go, man. So I was obsessed, man. I practiced any chance I could get. Literally, it was probably 8 hours a day around that. Started taking private lessons, and I'm only maybe like 2 months into it. I'm ready to be in a band, man. So my friend Taylor Stanton, shout out if he's listening right now. He was like, "Hey man, I saw these guys at the fire hall." And at this time, my mom and I had moved to Oregon, Westland, Oregon specifically, which is a suburb of Portland. And there's nothing to do in this town, man. So there's a lot of bands, and there was a fire hall where you could host like little dances and just all sorts of stupid small town shit like that. Well, this band called Tap D-Lo that my friend Tom Smith was in, they were probably the best punk band in town at the time, and they just slayed this show. And my friend Taylor, at the end of it, I guess they were gonna lose their drummer, and so my friend Taylor calls me up. He's like, "Dude, I just saw this killer band. You gotta try out for them." Mind you, I can't play for shit at this time, but I think I'm decent.
You're John Bonham.
So, yeah. So I call up Tom, and I'm like, "Hey man, I heard you're looking for a drummer." I'm a drummer. He comes over. I slop my way through some shit. I can see the look on their faces. They're like, "What is that?" They're trying to be nice, right? They're trying not to say like, "Dude, you completely suck." But I can read it on their face because I'm in tune enough. I'm like, "This isn't going well, is it?" And he's like, "Well, I just don't think you're there yet." And I remember just being crushed, dude. Probably the same feeling like when Wild Jack wouldn't let you sing with him at first. And so I got even more obsessed than I was before, dude. I got super focused. I was like, just give me a month and come back, dude. I listened to all these punk rock records, and I just learned the basic beat, man, because I would play it over and over and over. And thankfully, man, he came back, and I was decent. I was decent enough to play with them, but he didn't want to be in that band anymore. So him and I, for the next like 3-4 years, would just jam together, and we would basically practice together, and we just kept getting better and better and better until we went to college together. We met a guy named Jeff, who was a killer keyboard and a singer, and that's when our first band, Goodbye Harrison, started. But before that, in high school, I was in just a savage ass punk band called Controvert. And we used to throw shows, and he lived out in a town called Wilsonville, and his family had like this storage shed, kind of like a barn of sorts, and there was literally a loft up there. We would throw parties out there with a bunch of different other punk bands, and I mean, just teenage drinking at its finest, kick-ass punk rock music. It was a great time, man. But I knew from right there, all I wanted to do was play music. I told my mom, I told my grandma, I told all my friends, anyone that would listen, I was like, I'm going to be the most badass drummer out there. That's what I'm going to do.
Hell yeah, I love the confidence.
Well, but I wasn't confident. That's the funny thing, man. Is like, I actually deep down, it stemmed from the fact that I was always really bad in school, had a lot of like self-confidence issues and stuff like that. So I thought it was the only thing I was able to do, really, even though I did truly love it and it is what I wanted to do. It came from like feeling like I couldn't do anything else. But yeah, to answer your question, so to flash forward, and then Tom, who I first started playing with, we formed a band called Goodbye Harrison in college. Started playing after that. That band was up until that point, that was the best band I had been in. Anyways, so yeah, Goodbye Harrison was great, and after college, we played around Portland. We got a little bit of radio attention, played some big clubs, some of the best shows of my life. And then one day after one of the shows, Jeff decides that he's going to quit. He's got to do the family thing. And the whole band just ends right there. And kind of my whole shot at being in a big band at the time was over. I got super pissed. I was like, I'm going to go to a place where people will never quit a band, even though that was naive because they do all the time. I was like, I'm going to go to a place where people will like die for their dreams to make it happen. And that was Nashville, man. So yeah, at the time, my day job was in a luxury hotel out in the wine country of Oregon. So I knew that, service jobs like that are directly transferable. So I Googled like luxury hotels in Nashville. And at the time there was only one, and that was the good old Hutton Hotel, man. So I cold called him. I was like, hey, my name is Kevin. I live in Oregon. I'm trying to move out to Nashville. I have hotel experience, luxury hotel experience. Would you guys be looking for a front desk person? Literally, man, I got the interview. Good to go, hired, secured a fucking apartment sight unseen from Oregon. Packed the car, dude, and I was on the way out, man. Me and my Saint Bernard, who is probably quite possibly the oldest living Saint Bernard still to this day, almost 13 years old. Shout out.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's like 700 in dog years.
I know, dude, it's insane. So we're fucking setting out, just pioneers, blazing the trail across the country. One of the most exciting times of my life, man. I've yet to feel a sense of like exhilaration and freedom that I felt, on that journey is amazing.
Can you tell the listeners, like, going through that journey, I'm sure like passing through all the states that maybe you've never been in was exhilarating. But when you saw the Nashville skyline, what was that like? Like for oh my God, this is my home now. What was that like?
Yeah, so what's crazy is once you get to Nashville and you talk to a bunch of other people that have moved here, there's when you go down one of our main highways here, 65 South, when you're crossing over the Kentucky border into Nashville, once you pass through, into Tennessee, once you pass through those first couple cities, you come around this, you go down this hill, you come around this bend, and then all of a sudden, boom, the Nashville skyline is like in your face, and still to this day is a super cool feeling when you've never seen it before, and it comes up, it's like fucking Mecca, dude. You're like, wow. So to like keep with the theme of Nashville, I was like, let's put it on a country station, man. Let's see what's up. I wonder what's playing. At the time, it was Jason Aldean's Crazy Town, which has that like sick rock and roll, or like heavier rock guitar riff in it. That's
crazy. You actually roll into Nashville in a town with a song that's written about Nashville being a crazy town.
Dude, yeah.
It doesn't get more, I guess, prophetic than that? Is that the word to say?
Yeah, absolutely,
That's
man.
nuts. Absolutely nuts.
It was insane, dude. So I was stoked on that too because I made the connection right there. I was like, fuck, it's a sign, dude. This is insane. So I turned it up, just blasting it. And I remember, man, I stayed at that Best Western off of Demumbrian, which is still there today, which is, I mean, completely different thing. But you actually stayed there the first time you got here too, right?
I stayed right in front of it at the Comfort Inn.
At the Comfort Inn.
Inn, which is right in front.
That's right.
And both of those hotels are ironically still standing.
Crazy. And just cleaning up too.
Oh, got me. Yeah. They're like Metropolis now.
But I remember, man, it was the most surreal thing ever. Like you basically, and this is a good thing too, because this kind of fits in with our theme. You literally, I literally just left everything I knew, and now I'm in this completely new town that's known for, outlaw country and just so much rich history. And I felt more badass than I've ever felt in my entire life, dude. Is what I needed to feel, man. And that moment right there, while I was focused on like getting my shit together and making sure, I got moved in okay and everything, I was still in the midst of like, wow, holy shit, dude, this is bigger than I know it is at the time.
So why not? I know you said earlier, like, you wanted to move to Nashville because people don't quit bands in Nashville. Mm-hmm. But why not LA? Why not New York? Why was it Nashville? You never went there.
No, it was affordability. Honestly, I knew I would just be priced out of New York and LA, and maybe that wouldn't have been true. I mean, people make it all the time there with living with roommates and everything. But at the time, like I said, man, I was just on a mission to get out of Portland because I was pissed. It was an anger move. I was like, where can I go tomorrow and make it happen?
Yeah. That's so funny because you said it's affordable, and there's probably people listening at home that are like looking up apartments for rent, and they're like, what the hell is this? This shit is not affordable. Because back then, 10, 11 years ago, it was a way different Nashville.
It was.
I mean, it really was. It was different in Nashville 5 years ago.
Yep. I was here 8 years ago. So, yeah, still the same. 8 years ago was 8 years ago, Nashville was still 11 years ago in Nashville. So, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing.
And I think when you came, some of the first words that were whispered to you was, there's going to be a wave, and you're getting it at the right time. And because I kept hearing that too, and I'm like, Nashville's never going to like blow up. Like it's a cool community. It's small. If you knew 7 people, you knew everyone.
Right.
Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, now it's just fucking out of control.
It's insane.
Which, whatever, man, is great. I still love it here. I don't want to be anywhere else for sure. Anyway, so I start the job first day at the Hutton, and who works there? This fucking great guy sitting across the way from me right now, Steve Lester. I come up from training in a cold, unforgiving basement. I see this tan, great looking dude with spiked ass hair, and I'm like, that motherfucker plays music. I don't even have to ask him. I just know it. So I'm like, I remember being a little nervous. I was like, what am I gonna say to him, dude? This is like my first shot at like introducing myself to a real Nashville musician. I was like, hey dude, what do you do? And you're like, I'm a musician. And I was like, oh dude, I moved here to play music too. And you look at me and you say one word, you go, radical. And you walk off.
I don't remember saying radical, but yeah, that's probably something I would have said. Like, I don't care about you. Get out of my, you're blocking my son. You're blocking my son.
That's exactly what it was.
Well, that's funny. We did meet at the Hutton, and God, we had some times at the Hutton. First of all, the best hotel in Nashville at the time.
It was, yeah.
Just brand new.
Yeah.
And
it was the place to be if you're going to work.
And all the celebrities. How many cool people and interesting people did we meet there?
Dude, dozens.
It was crazy experience. I ended up, so funny, working at the Hutton Hotel just almost as a fluke too. Or I probably would never have met you. I was working at Staples. That was my first job when I moved here. I didn't know. I've never even went or been inside of Staples in my life up in Ohio. But it was right down the street from the house I was renting, and it was a real close place. I walked in. I was like, you guys looking for work? Or, you hiring anybody? They're like, yeah, in our copy and print center. I don't even know how to spell copy or print. But I was like, I can do that. And needless to say, I got fired from that job because I was printing illegally. I was printing out business cards, some of my EBK kit. Like, just, I was being a little bastard. And,
hey, we call that resourceful. You got to do what you got to do.
I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I remember I actually had to turn in my first EPK kit. And I was so excited, but they had to have all this like resume stuff and all this cool like business card stuff and all this marketing stuff behind you. And
you're like, I got you, bro.
I was like, I could totally do that. Yeah. Illegally and criminally. And I did. They found it, and they found out, and they fired me. That was the first job I've ever been fired. I don't even think my parents know I was ever fired. I think I said I was let go or something.
They think you still work there.
They do. They do.
Steve's running the place now. We're real
they
proud
gave me
of
the
him.
keys and everything. So then I'll never forget the day after. I was so like scared. It's like, well, how can I make money? How can I make money in Nashville? Oh, this is gonna be crazy. It was like a Craigslist ad, and they're like, new hotel is hiring front desk, and I don't know. Nicest hotel I ever stayed at in my life was probably the Comfort Inn in Nashville. I mean, it was always 2-star and below. And I just faked it till I make it, man. I pretended like I had experience. I got the job, and boom, I was there. So I've been there for maybe what? I was probably there for like what, a year and a half, 2 years?
Easily a year, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I remember when Kevin McElroy walked in. Wasn't my, I was like, you were my choice guy.
I was green, bro.
You were green.
Hadn't even sprouted. Just a rookie fucking looking dude.
You were fresh, man. You had some pounds on you at the time. You had some pounds. But I don't know what happened. And I probably was a little bit of a jerk to you. I'm sure I was. Like the whole radical thing. I was just like, yeah, get this guy out of my face. But I'll never forget because you didn't know anybody. I was probably the first person you actually knew. And I think it was the second day we worked. You were like, yeah, I was like, so you play drums? What's your deal? And you're like, yeah, man, I play drums. I got a cajon. And like my ears lit up because I was like, I thought the coolest instrument in the world was the cajon at the time because I had never seen one in Ohio. And I used to go to writers' rounds here in Nashville and see this one guy named Matt Burgess who would play cajon in all these rounds. And I'm like, dude, that's so cool. It's a box. It makes noise. Like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, if you don't know, a cajon is a Brazilian instrument that like looks like a box. It's got a thin wooden panel on the front that's got like a wire in the back of it, so it's got like a deep bass tone and like a snare. So perfect for like acoustic settings like that. But
oh yeah, I think it definitely amplifies acoustic performances. And I was playing mainly writers' rounds and playing acoustic, so I was like, oh, this could probably benefit my sound. And I don't really know this guy, but he seems pretty cool. And then you caught me off guard because you're like, well, I think you said your girlfriend wasn't moving down with you. I think she was supposed to come.
She was, yeah. She said she wanted to at the time, and then once I actually got out here, she didn't want to make that big of a move for it. So
she backs out. He's got this big pod full of stuff, or a big U-Haul.
Both our shit.
Both of your shit, and a Saint Bernard. And he looks at me and he goes,
right.
And he's like, well, I mean, I don't know why. I offered. I was like, do you need help, like unloading the U-Haul or the iPod or the pod? And you're like, Yeah. You were like, yeah, I do. I was like, all right, give me your address. I'll come by and I'll help you. And I didn't know what the hell, because I kept my shit tight back then. I had about, 5 really good friends, kind of ran in some circles, and I my mentality was like, I ain't got room for nobody else, especially someone I don't know. But I was like, I don't know why. I was just like, I'm supposed to know this guy. Like, I'm supposed to go over there and help this guy unload his pod. I don't know if he's a killer, whatever, but I'm going to do it. And I did. And I think it was that first night, I think we ordered some pizza, we drank some beers, we unloaded it, and we just got to know each other. And then it's just been history ever since, man.
Yeah.
It's
it really
so crazy.
It is really crazy, man. And thank God you felt whatever you felt, man, because it's been on ever since then, dude. I just remember, even being introduced to all your friends at the time, dude. It was just this instant fitting in, and when I first met your buddy Neil that you grew up with, well, now our buddy, we just celebrated him getting married. But
congratulations, Neil.
When I first met Neil, right, it's hard as an outsider to come into a group that is that tight, that literally grew up in another state together, and it just fell right into place, man, which was insane. I remember though, I didn't know how good Steve was until I saw him play at a writer's round at the Commodore at the Holiday Inn. Shout out if anyone from Nashville is listening, you know what we're talking about.
Love you, Debbie Champion.
Absolutely. I saw Steve play, and he was the shit, dude. I loved his voice. I loved the way, his phrasing, his chord structuring. I was like, dude, that's amazing. And so I approached him after that. I was like, I got to play with you, man. Let's play. Let's jam. And then we got together, and our styles just fit perfect, man. The way he intuitively grooves is the same way I do, and it was over from there, man. And so we kept getting better and better friends, closer and closer. And then it's around Christmas time, and I'm like, I go up to Steve. I'm like, hey, man, so funny story. That girl that didn't move out here, she was supposed to come with me and my family on a cruise to Hawaii for Christmas. We were going to try something different and just go on a big trip for Christmas instead of doing the traditional
And
thing.
I think you moved what, in the summer almost, because you were
Yep, I was here in May. So
okay.
So it was a while.
We
of
didn't know
being
each other
friends.
that long.
No, not at all. So yeah, so I must have asked you around October, maybe. Yeah, because I wouldn't just lead into that. Yeah, so I asked you around October. I'm like, hey man, there's this extra ticket, everything's already paid for. So I go to Steve. I'm like, dude, you just want to come to Hawaii for Christmas? And then I can't remember. I was
okay, not only come to Hawaii for Christmas, it was a 10-day cruise. So also New Year's Eve in Waikiki.
That's right. Holy shit, dude. Yeah, it was so. so I'm coming up to you. We've only known each other a few months. I go, hey man, I guess my parents were living in Oregon at the time, or my mom was, and I'm like, hey man, you want to fly all the way back to Oregon, stay with my parents who you've never met, and then fly from there all the way out to Hawaii for 10 days and fucking party like rock stars for free.
That was the craziest thing. And I, honestly, it was a no-brainer. I was like, yes. But it was Christmas time. And that would be the first time, I think, that was the first time I would have to spend Christmas away from my family. And for some reason, I was like, I don't know. My mom, I'm close to my parents and stuff, but I'm like, they're probably not going to like it. I get on the phone with my parents. I'm like, well, Kev invited me out to Hawaii for 10 days on a cruise. Oh, everything's paid for. Everything's great. And they're just like, what are you, nuts? Go. And I was like, hell yeah. Because the only ocean I think I've ever seen at that point was the Carolinas and stuff. Maybe Virginia Beach once, but not the Pacific, not Hawaii. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And so I was like, hell yeah, dude, we're going.
So this is an important part, right? So up to this point, you guys kind of hear how we met each other, and obviously, we have, just a cool special connection right off the bat. But this is where it gets really fucking cool, because we take full fucking advantage of this opportunity. Thankfully, because. This was a big trip for my mom. She wanted to do it right. And so we were flying fucking business class, and Steve and I dressed it up, dude. We threw the stunner shades on. We thought we were the fucking shit, dude. We just took it as an opportunity to be just full on rock stars, drinking on the plane out there.
Oh yeah. First and only time I've ever been first class.
Yeah.
where they're giving you free drinks, like Mai Tais. Remember, we went from Portland to Honolulu, and I think we had about 7, 8 Mai Tais a piece, and your mom just kept saying, yeah, drink them. That's fine. It's fine. But remember, on a plane, you can't get that drunk. But but you get drunk when you land.
Right.
It all starts hitting you. So we're fucking in Honolulu, and we're all stumbling. Oh, shit. It was so fun.
And we're 25 at the time, just cocky as shit, thinking we earned this trip in some way, even though we're like the freeloaders on it.
Well, you had broken up with your girlfriend, and I was recently on a breakup.
That's
and
right.
It was like we were two single guys. And by the way, for the audience, this was the birth of the gruesome twosome. Now, I know Joe Perry and Steve Tyler get that title, and rightfully so, but our gruesome twosome was born on that trip.
It was because this was a special occasion. First of all, so unique situation. So cruise ships around Christmas time are notoriously light. Like there's not a lot of people trying to do that. So we were in a super unique position where we got to party with the entertainment crew, who all just happened to be our age at the time too, like 25, 26. And so we got like a first class seat to their world, which if you don't have any friends like on the cruise ship circuit that work on it as entertainers, it's a fucking wild ride. It's a circus.
Make friends with the entertainment.
You should do that for sure.
They'll give you a hell of a trip.
So we're having the time of our lives, man. We're, the ship is docked. You can take excursions into town, and we were in Kona, and we went to Kona Brewery, and that was probably the best day we had there, man. We were walking around the town, getting drunk at the brewery, and we start singing this song that Steve starts writing called "Italian Wine," and I remember I just had this vision of like stumbling drunk down the streets. And just spitballing back and forth, like freestyling the song. And that right there was probably one of the craziest moments of my life, because I was like, this is my dude for life right here, man. We have this incredible like synergistic creativity with each other, where we just like, when the two of us are together, we just elevate to this like totally different level of creativity. Like reality doesn't exist. We're just like in our own world, in our own cloud, and great fucking shit comes out of it. We have amazing conversations, and like we just create and collaborate really well together.
Yeah, I think art becomes effortless when we're together, and it just kind of just flows. It flows in our conversation. I mean, I remember singing that song down the street, and like the lyrics were pretty good. I mean, everything was flowing great. And then your mom had bought me a ukulele on that trip, because I kept seeing the ukulele is really popular in Hawaii. I was like, man, I want to learn how to play it. So your mom surprised me and bought me a ukulele. Yeah. And the last time we were in Waikiki, Kevin and I write a song on the beach. I think we were drinking screwdrivers.
Yeah.
and it was so funny. And we wrote a song. What was it called?
Italian Wine.
Oh, that was Italian Wine.
Yeah.
That was Italian Wine. Mm-hmm. I thought it was...
No.
Because you are something I can't miss.
That's it. That's right.
Yeah, for You Are Something I Can't Miss. 2 songs, 1 trip, effortlessly. And I think that's when we both knew, like, okay, we need to create together all the time in life. And like I said, you are one of my favorite collaborators musically, but also in life, because just like how conversation and spiritually, it just connects. There's an energy between us, and it's so easy. And I think that's like very important, to surround yourself by people who are like that.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, dude, whenever we're out together, man, it's always the best night we've ever had. It doesn't matter if it's Tuesday, Wednesday, or if it's in Hawaii. Like, just good stuff happens, man. And whether you want to say we're like putting out the right quote, vibes or whatever, I don't care, man. Whatever it is, it's a very special connection, and that's something that's important. And we're gonna touch back on that later in the story, and it wraps into like how we started this company together. But for now, one of the most important parts about that cruise ship trip was something that I said that really stuck with Steve, that I kind of have like spotty memories of. But we're drunk again, walking back to the cruise ship. I'm looking at this. I mean, most of you have seen a cruise ship, but when you're walking up to it, this massive floating fucking 25-story thing, I look at it and I say, if some fucker can build that, we can be in a major band together. Like, there's no way. Like, anything is fucking possible.
You said that when we were on like the lifeboat, like when we were porting from getting off the ship to go to Kona.
Okay.
And then you're in this little raft that's going to take you to Kona, and you are surrounded by this massive ship. And I remember, that's what he said. I look up, you look up, You say, fucker can build that. We could be in a band, or we could do anything. I think that's what you said. You said, we could do anything. And I was like, holy shit. And that still sticks with me. And I give that advice to people all the time.
Because it's true. I mean, like, you got to redefine impossible. I mean, if this fucking floating fortress, all it took was a process, a plan, and, you know.
Determination.
Exactly.
And belief. So the cruise ship was kind of the birth of, I think the word we kind of just knew that our creative energy was just simply electric. We had this fire between us.
Yep.
And that, I think, led into, I think when we came back to writing songs together and performing them out here in Nashville. We Kevin and I would do songwriter rounds all the time. And it was really funny, and I just got to say this because Kevin still does this to the day, is we in Nashville, you do writers' rounds. So there's usually about 3 or 4 people up on stage, and each writer sings a song. And then when it was always my turn, I always had the cajon behind me. So my songs sounded a little bit cooler. They sounded, I had some rhythm to it.
We flex on them a little bit.
And then if Kevin ever feels a song from like another writer, he'll tap it a little bit. He'll give him a little love. But if Kevin's not feeling it, Kevin ain't playing.
Silence.
Still does it to the day, and I feel bad for everybody that gets in the round with me. And I'm like, God, if he's not playing on this song, that usually means, and the audience probably knows it, that guy probably isn't feeling that shit. It's so funny.
Full disclosure, though, what I'm really... the only reason I don't play is because it sounds like I would be trampling on the song, like the artist.
No, that's very true.
Like the artist wrote it to like have some more space in there. It's
you
really
let them
groovy.
let it breathe.
But if you don't know that's what's going through my mind, then yes, it looks like I'm favoring people, and I'm quietly Randy Jackson judging you.
So we started playing a lot of music together. Then we played one show that was a really important show for us, and that was the Raw music event in Nashville.
Yep. We bought an old antique lamp. We put it up because we wanted to vibe out. So we had a red satin sheet and this antique lamp that's still in the room that we're sitting in right now that has a fucking velour
it's going to the grave with me.
It's going to the museum.
Yeah, it's Smithsonian. And for those of you who don't know what Raw event is, Raw was a event that I guess honored musicians and jewelry makers and apparel, and there was a fashion show.
Yep.
It was so cool. And it was new to Nashville, so we kind of knew some people. We got in on that, but we wanted our show. We had 3 songs, and we're like, we want these 3 songs to sound so cool. But you know what's gonna make it sound even cooler? We got to dress up the stage like a Kiss concert. Yeah. So we buy these antique lamps
via a sexy living room instead of pyro.
Oh my God, we set this thing up like honestly, it was like kind of like an Amy Winehouse kind of live set vibe.
Yeah, Amy Winehouse, Adele, all before they did it. So
all before they did it.
I like to think of us as trendsetters.
Yeah, like we had satin red sheets that we would just lay on the floor. The antique lamps. I think we had. What else do we have? Like
that was it, man.
Everything but a fog machine.
It was sexy chic, man.
And we get up there and we play our 3 songs, and they all started with, I think, D. It was Dizzy, Danger. What was it? Dirty Little Things.
I thought we played The Rain.
Oh, The Rain and The Rain. Yep. So we played those 3 songs, and there was a person in the audience who I actually worked with going back to the Staple days, my friend Sean Power.
Shout out Shawnee P.
Shizzy Piz. Sean was in the audience that night, and I knew Sean was a killer guitarist because he was always on tour, and that's actually how I got that Staples gig, because they're like, well, our copy and print guy is actually on tour right now. So
speaking of cruise ships, he just got done with a cruise ship gig, which is hilarious.
He did. That's so ironic. Yes.
Synchronicity.
He just got off of a cruise ship gig. And he was in the audience, and he goes, I really love this. I really dig this. Y'all should come over sometime, and we should make some music. And Kevin and I are like, okay, cool. I don't think you knew Sean at the time.
No, I didn't. That was my first meeting. Yep.
And then, I don't know, where did it go from there?
Then we decided to make you an artist, because you were wanting to do the songwriter thing, and we were both like, dude, you fucking look and sound great. Like, let's try to do the artist thing. So we put together a 4 or 5 song EP, literally called the Steve Lester How It Feels EP. Bootstrapped it DIY. Literally the album cover of it was we went in Steve's closet and threw an outfit on the floor that looked like he had just like stripped naked or whatever. Took like a grainy cell phone shot of it, stuck it on an album cover. But Sean Power, still to this day one of the best producers in town here, owns a place called the Hilson Studio. If you want to check it out, thehilsonstudio.com. Anyway, we recorded there. So it sounded fantastic. So it's like these kids just bootstrapping this thing. Again, we're only 26 at the time. But it was great, man. Still to this, just a very cool, like bluesy kind of album. With still some of your best songs that you've written on it.
I think so. It was a lot of stuff that you and I were playing together out live, and then I think there was a few new added tunes that we put on it. But it was really funny, and that was the coolest experience for me, I think, as an artist ever, because that EP was like the first thing I really did kind of professionally, and I had my boys with me, and I was so excited to show all of like Northeast Ohio, and it's really cool because I still get love from that EP. I still get love. There's some songs on that EP that people have listened to during, when our buddy Steve lost his dad. There was the songs that they would listen to during times of just really dark times. There's songs in there that people listen to for inspiration, and I didn't know anything. I wasn't even trying to connect on like that. I was just writing what was going on in my life. It was so cool because people were calling, and I was getting all these responses, like, "Oh my God, this song has helped me in this time of need," and I was like, "Fuck." That's why we do it, right? I was like, this is so cool. I'll never forget making that record, and just the first time I ever got that phone call and saying like, man, this is something really special, and thank you. I was like, wow.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. That was a big turning point for me too, man. That's one of the most in-depth records I had made at the time. And so Sean kind of turned me into a way better drummer than I was at the time. And so I credit that whole experience with the beginning of like being the player that I am today, which was just awesome, man. So we started there. So then, Sean and I, we're still, extremely good friends today. And at the time, man, we, Sean is a badass player all around, man. Drums, bass, guitar, you name it.
I can play anything and master it.
And can sing. I mean, just a talented, super fucking talented dude. Anyway, so we're like, hey man, why don't we just make this a whole fucking band? And I remember Sean being a little reluctant at the time because that like wasn't what he was trying to do.
I think he was playing in a band at a time.
Okay, yeah.
Was it Pneumatic?
I thought it was post of that.
Okay, he just got out of it or something, and I think his experience in there wasn't 100%. So I think trying to get him like, hey, you want to start a band, was a little bit tough for him.
Yes, okay. Yeah, but I don't remember the details on how we convinced him, but we did, and we came up with a name called "Why Not Be Kings."
No,
we came up with the Standard.
The Standard.
That's right. Okay.
But the name was already taken by some band, I think, in Seattle.
Yes.
So we had to change it, and we thought long and hard, and I think "Why Not Be Kings" was born.
Yes. Yeah. And so we abbreviated that like cool kids, the letter Y and BK, not W. And it did well, man. It was great, dude. We played some of the best clubs in Nashville, dude. 12th and Porter. We had a whole horn section behind it. We had keys. We had it was a sick band, dude. It was really good. A very like kind of Jason Mraz meets John Mayer kind of deal.
Yeah, I think Jason Mraz, a little Maroon 5 with like some Billy Joel in it. I mean, it was such a cool concept, and no one else was doing it here in Nashville at the time.
Right.
So our shows were always interesting to see kind of what crowd would show up.
Yeah, definitely pulled from that early Maroon 5 songs about Jay and stuff, heavily influenced by that. So Sean was from New York, and obviously Steve being from Ohio, we were able to put together like a little regional tour. And we would go up to Steve's hometown in Ohio and play at this super cool place on the lake, and had a great response from there. And then we were able to do some New York City shows. It was a great run, man. It was really a great time. And for whatever reason, man, it just didn't take off to the point that we had hoped it would. To no particular fault of anyone, just things happen that way.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think being in a band, being an artist, it's tough. It is a tough road. It can be. But I mean, I was so glad that we did it. I was just so happy that we did it. We had such a good time, life experiences, and the music that we created on and off stage. I mean, really.
No, dude, it's amazing. I mean, it was
carry that the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah, it was an incredible experience, man. I still love all those songs, and that's still some of the best times of my life right there, man, which is awesome. And we're all still doing, I mean, We're all still friends today.
Yeah, we're also like brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all at each other's weddings. We see each other all the time, probably too much.
Yeah. But I think, as with anything, because we had a lot invested in that, all of us did. We all thought, we're getting excited. We think it's going to be the thing. When it didn't turn out to be that thing that we were expecting, I'm sure a lot of you out there can relate to that too. It's still, even though it's time for it to slow down and kind of fade out, it still comes with sadness, man. And there's
Always.
a little, I know for me, I was, that's the third, fourth time I thought this opportunity to like be in a major band just didn't work out. So me personally, I was super frustrated. I didn't know what I was going to do because, I had intentionally kept myself in low-paying service jobs to be available to tour and do whatever the band needed. So now we're getting to that point where it's not happening, and we all kind of started going our own ways, right?
Yeah, I think we're all kind of just. I mean, I was bartending at the time. I started bartending a lot more. Like, like you said, you're doing like low end service jobs just to kind of, which is great when you're a musician because you have your days free to rehearse. Hopefully, get a couple nights off on a weekend to go play. But then, I think I went back to bartending like full time. I was miserable. I was just like, what am I doing? And I was still writing. I was always constantly writing. But I was just a little bit miserable. I'm like, and I miss the stage. I miss the stage so much. And then I would get on stage at like, writers' rounds and stuff just to get my fix. But it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same without my boys up there. So I don't know.
I kind of freaked out a little bit. I was like, well, man, maybe this just isn't going to happen to me. Like maybe it's just not in the cards at all. Maybe I'm not an artist. Maybe I've been naive and dumb the whole time. And maybe I need to go hyper practical. And I really went into a complete like state of almost shock and fear. And I had met the person who is my wife today, but around that time, because I was like driving limos and Steve went back to bartending full time. So I'd go to the place that he was bartending and met the person who's now my wife. But anyway,
that was the only good thing about me going back bartending full time.
It was, man. You're the matchmaker, and
yes,
we are super appreciative. Anyway, but I'm scared at the time, right, man? Because I, some personal things had happened, and then the band had broke up, and now I'm like, well, shit, dude, what do I do? I saw this ad in the paper for, I don't have to go into the specifics of the industry, but it was a very hyper practical, like your dad does this type of job. Super buttoned up corporate type of thing. The complete opposite. I mean, I'm talking full left turn of what I'm like the best, naturally created to do. And this particular field just happens to have a reputation to pay well. So I thought, hey, you know what, man? Like my artist dream is done. My musical dreams are done. Good for you that you moved out to Nashville. You have a brotherhood here, so you can't leave. Like, you and Sean and Neil are like the best friends I've ever had. So I'm not going to like go back to Oregon. That's not it. But I have to get in my own mind, I thought I had to get like hyper practical and go the safe route. I wind up getting in this job. And it does everything I thought it was going to do. It does pay well. It does change a lot of things, but it also is completely soul sucking. It's also completely like to the point where you're like, man, this thing I thought I was going to lean on, that I thought was going to be the safe route and like everything was going to be okay. Actually, eventually, while in the short term does provide some relief, over a long term kind of starts turning into a nightmare. And that creative side of me is just starting to come out, and it's manifesting in deep, deep depression, anxiety, a feeling like I don't know myself anymore, feeling like I let myself down. I mean, just like to the point where some days I couldn't get out of bed. I mean, I was fucked, right? And so thankfully, around this time, you're starting to write again, and you invite me to come in on some writing sessions. And what do you notice about those writing sessions?
It was crazy because, well, you never really added lyrics, I think, to anything that we did. Like you were more the percussionist, and like you wrote, I guess, the feeling, the rhythm.
Yes.
And I think you came in, I'll never forget, and you told me about how down you were about your job and stuff, and you said you had been written kind of some poetry and stuff, just to kind of, I think, just to have a vehicle of creativity and just expression.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I said, well, why don't you read me some of that poetry? And you're like, well, I think these are song lyrics. And so Kevin reads me these poems that he's been writing, and I go, dude, these aren't song lyrics at all. These are fucking poems, man. This is great poetry. And I have him, remember I always said, I was like, read it again, read it again, read it again. Because Kevin is, for those of you who don't know him, his vocabulary is very wide. And I don't, like he reads the dictionary every day. I don't get half the words. So sometimes I'm like, read it again because I couldn't follow some of the words you were saying because I've never heard these words before. But most of the time I was saying, read it again because that thing just knocked my dick in the dirt. Like that was amazing. And so you start writing poetry, and then I was like, well, okay, let's write some songs together. And we wrote a song called Wine. We wrote Travel Anyway. I think we wrote Travel Anyway in like 45 minutes, and it's 2 chords. And we've actually played that song live, and it was like one of the most well responded songs I've had in a long time.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
A Wednesday night writers round, and you got people standing ovation.
Yeah,
and like huge response. It was incredible.
It was insane. 2 chords. Because I think we wanted to try to do something that was meaningful. That was a big thig about that song.
It was a big turning point. Yeah.
That's when I kind of realized, so kind of my story, just to kind of backtrack, that will make this song a little bit more powerful, is well, I don't know where to start because after the band, I had signed a publishing deal, and so I started working mainly just songwriting and pitching songs to country artists and trying to do stuff for radio. So when you're writing those songs, it's great, it's fun. I love to create, but a lot of the times you're doing it, you're not really. I guess it's not. I'm not being completely honest in the songs, right? Because if you're writing with a 15-year-old or 16-year-old artist, like I don't know how they feel, but you're just trying to write something that makes them feel, so that they can deliver it to an audience that can feel them, right? So it was kind of crazy because this was the first time I was like, well, I actually want to say something. I want to say something. And I know Kev has a lot to say. So I said, let's do it in 2 chords. And let's just write something authentic. Let's write something just crazy that like what we would want to tell an audience right now at the point of our lives. And we wrote this song called Travel Anyway. It's 45 minutes?
In 45 minutes, yeah. And by the way, this is 3 years down the road since the breakup of the band. Like I had been in that specific career for like 3 years, and Steve had been a full-time songwriter for those 3 years as well. So we're coming to this moment after 3 years of like being apart and living, pretty separate lives. And so this was like an explosion of like everything that we were feeling, and it just like
what was crazy is because Kev came in with poetry because he was trying to express himself. And then when I was hearing your poetry, I was like, okay, shit. I need to write a song now that I can express myself. And I said, there's only one person I know who could actually help me do this. And it was Kev. And when we wrote that song, it was explosive. I was like, I got so much off my chest. I felt like I was actually delivering a positive but yet honest message. And when we played that song, we played this at some writer's night on a Wednesday, and like no one's supposed to be there, but for some reason it was packed. It was so packed. And we're like, we got to end it with Travel Anyway. Because, we play the old King stuff. We play some stuff that, whatever. Yeah. But I was like, no, we got to end it with a new one. And I didn't even think I was going to remember the words. But as soon as those first notes hit, we started playing it. Standing ovation. People are going crazy. And everyone came up to us and was like, that was like my favorite song I've heard that night. I go, that's crazy because it's 2 chords. But here's the thing. It's 2 chords, but it's the fucking truth. Yeah. And it's fucking honesty, and it's authentic. And that's what I think people want to hear now.
No, and that will never die. Yeah. And I know like, so I have like 2 or 3 words in that song. So but like, that's my first experience, like playing out a song that not only do I play drums and percussion on, but like I have a little bit of a writing credit on. And I immediately got why you fell in love with songwriting, why anyone else, who's possibly listening to this falls in love with songwriting. It's incredible, man, to see people like, even if you only have a few lines in the song, just to see them like really latch onto it. That was explosive for me, dude. So I just started writing. I told you, I was like, dude, like, thank you so much for encouraging my writing. Like I'm going to write like a poem a day. I got in my book every morning, and I'm kind of falling off the habit, but I filled up like a notebook of all these different ones. And each one I would bring to Steve. He was like my biggest fan for it. So, first of all, thank you for believing in me like that. That was a big thing.
Thanks for bringing the genius, man.
That's pretty crazy. But anyway, so we have that night. It's amazing. We know this is going to be a thing. Steve's still doing his writing thing. I'm writing my stuff once a day, and I'm thinking, you know what, man, maybe I'd like to take writing and poetry a little more seriously. So I start researching some classes to take and like how to potentially maybe get published down the road, because it feels good. It feels really good to contribute like that. So one day I text Steve, I'm like, hey man, I think I'm going to create a new Instagram account to kind of reintroduce myself. It's going to like showcase some of my writing. I had started playing drums again. I had auditioned for a new band that kind of gave me the gig. So, I'm playing music again, and I always, I love showcasing that part of stuff too. So I was gonna have like a section of it that was like drum covers and things like that. So anyway, so I text him. I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna re-release this new Instagram account. I'm gonna call it Bombers and Sleeves, man. He's like, what the fuck? That's sick, dude. He's like, how'd you come up with that name? I was like, I don't know, dude. I was just like, I wrote this piece about like stifling your creativity and how eventually, like, if you bomb your heart enough, it's going to want to seek peace on your sleeve. And what I mean by that is like, if you suppress a creative drive, a creative vision, it's going to come out one way or another. And for me, it was through writing, right? So, and that my writing was incredibly vulnerable. And so it's kind of like wearing your heart on your sleeve. And so I was like, fuck, that's kind of a badass way of saying like, hey man, you can be open, honest, vulnerable, and still like, be a fucking dude at the same time. So Bombers and Sleeves was a short poem. And then I reached out to a graphic designer buddy. I was like, hey man, I want to release this Instagram handle. I was like, here's what I'm thinking. Can you come up with some designs? I show the designs to Steve, and he's like, that's a fucking clothing line. I'm like, holy shit.
First of all, let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Because this is crazy. I've known you for a very long time.
Yes.
And like, okay, so all of a sudden you find something that you're like, this like new passion. It's like this new thing, this writing thing. It's just
never
like,
considered it.
Never considered it ever.
Yeah.
And I think the most writing I've ever seen you do is when you did the Steve Lester bio on like our Facebook or something. Okay.
That's right.
But this guy's coming to me, and I mean, let's be honest, dude. You're like, okay, Bombers and Sleeves. He reads me the poem. I'm blown away, knocked off. I mean, I'm just knocked out. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. And then you're getting a graphic designer to design like physical emblems about this essence that you are creating. I mean, I just think that's so badass. Like, I just think like you just went for it.
I don't have ass shit. We gotta do it.
Well, exactly.
Presentation is everything, bro.
We don't wait, we dominate. We don't wait, we dominate. But that's crazy. I mean, honestly, you could have just sat there and wrote poetry and maybe used it as like a form of therapy, but you went about it on this whole like kind of crazy tangent of saying, I want a label about it. I want a handle. I want it to be this whole like figure. I wanted it to be this whole thing. And I was just, by the way, at this point, when you're showing me like the images that Patrick had created,
Yeah.
I was blown away. It's like, what the hell is this?
It was crazy, dude. And seeing that mirrored back, I was like, wow, this is really important for anyone listening right now. I have a best friend. He encourages something that he sees in me. I go all in on that certain spark of creativity that I'd never considered before. And I do it to the best of my ability. And I do it right. And I take my time. And I say, if we're going to do this, we're going to present it well. I'm going to like, everything about this is going to be top notch. Right. So we're not, and then, and now this whole thing is born. And Steve goes, dude, no, that's a clothing line. And we're going to center this around everything we've just talked about on this entire podcast. And fucking boom, dude. Like, that's what we're trying, like, that's like the coup de grace of what we're trying to get to here, man. Like, what is it about your life right now that might be so subtle as the whole story that we just shared right here, that could be literally unlocking the key to your entire legacy, your whole lifelong potential? Dude, we are on fire with this idea. I've never felt more fulfilled and more certain about anything in my life, and I know Steve feels the same way. It's just fucking incredible, man. So touch on that, dude. Like, how did that feel when we got together, we decided this was the thing? You felt that same shift and same fulfillment, correct?
I did too. I'll take you back to I think when you first presented me the idea.
Yeah.
It was one of the most exciting days ever. And I think it was like probably like a Tuesday at like 2 or something.
Yes.
It was crazy. I was at a point in my life where being a songwriter, it's my life. It's my passion. It's my blood, man. I just fucking love it. But I felt this internal kind of pull, and I was just like, I should be doing something else too. Like there's something creatively that I should be doing. I had no idea what it was. I don't want to be an artist. I'm not an actor. I don't want to do that. But I was like, well, what can I do? And I thought about doing a podcast. And I thought everyone's like, oh, man, you got a cool voice. You should probably do radio. I was like, that's not it either. And I just waited and I waited. And I just kept thinking, I told my wife, I was just like, there's something else. There's something else. I'm hearing these whispers. I'm just hearing this creative siren that's like, there's something else you got to be doing, bro. And Kevin comes in with the whole Bombers and Sleeves stuff. And I didn't look at it like it was a chance for me to be like, okay, that's it, man. Like that's something I can jump on. It was presented to me, like I don't know how to describe it, in a light to where I was like, this is the shit that I've been like waiting for. This is it. And I think for all you listeners out there too, like when you hear that like or feel that internal pull, sometimes you don't have the answers. You don't know what it is, but it will find you. And when it does, your eyes better be open, because once you see it or once you feel it, man, you got to go for it and you got to attack it. And that's what happened. So Kevin introduces this thing to me, and I'm like, oh shit. I was like, this is great. Kevin, I don't think you even thought how great it was. I think you were just like, oh man, this is the thing I'm doing. I'm like, no, this is fucking bigger than that. Yeah. And then we started talking, and I said, dude, this is a clothing brand. I think this is a management company. I think we need to support artists. I think we live in Nashville, Tennessee. I said, look at all these different things we could do with it, because and what it should support is everything that you and I are going through right now, and everything that we stand for, and what we know everyone else out there is going through in the creative journey. And so it was like a lightning strike. And I've never been presented something like this in my life. I think we talked about music earlier, where like, songwriting kind of just came with being a lover of music and wanting to connect with people. But I never thought I'd want to own a clothing line. Are you kidding me? Oh,
dude, no, me neither. Never in my wildest dreams. But now here we are, and we established a company together, and it's happening, and the response has been fucking insane, man. Because we have shared this same story with multiple people, all of our artist friends, even people outside the music industry, and it's incredible to see like how many people have felt the exact same thing we're going through, but just no one's ever voiced it the way we're voicing it right now. No one's put it into a brand. No one's put it into a message quite like we are. Like yes, you could say lots of people have said, oh, you felt a shift to do something different and like got outside your comfort zone. Great. Yeah, but it's not the same as what we're saying right here, man.
Yeah, I think the connection value to it is so important, because being a songwriter, you being a musician, and if you were listeners out there being creatives, how many times have you heard the word no? And how many times did you let that no affect you? Or how many times as a songwriter for me, where I've turned in a song that I thought, this is the song's going to change my life, and a publisher looks at it and they say, this is cool. And you're like, what? This is everything. This is my guts. This is my bones, man. And they're just like, it's all right. And there's so many people that I think that are in this town or out there in the world that do this every day, that put themselves out there and they get rejected. And then they start letting the fear, the anxiety, the doubt, and that depression starts setting in. And then you start questioning, should I be doing this? Should I be doing the thing that like God or the universe put me on earth to do? This is the creative call that I need to be doing. I know, in order to live, in order to breathe easy. Right. Should I really be doing this? The answer is a fucking yes, you should. And that's where I think Bombers and Sleeves, like the whole mission kind of came from.
Yeah. And that's why when you look at our logos, it's a shark bomb and like a severed arm with tattoos, and like the bomber pilot with the old school helmet and the goggles. It's because we're intentionally being aggressive, because this is not an easy road. Like pushing through all this fear and doubt and stuff, it's strong, and it takes you being a fucking warrior motherfucker to push through it. So that's why we tend to, you look through our Instagram feed, it's got a lot of aggressive looking pictures in there. That's because, man, like we're not trying to be soft about this. This is important. This is your, like the integrity of your, of like your creative spirit at stake, man. And I don't take that lightly, because I know firsthand how fucking devastating it is to ignore that. And we're not putting up with that shit.
Yeah, no, when the Vikings went in the battle, they didn't go out there with flowers to give their enemies. They came out with fucking machetes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, because they wanted to win the war. And that's what we're telling you people out there. When you start the creative journey, I don't care who you are. I'm going to tell you, Kev's going to tell you, the world's going to tell you. It ain't easy. It sucks.
It's not.
It's hard. But you know what? That's what makes it good. That's what makes it so fucking good. But you just have to hang in there.
And exactly, you have to hang in there because I want to. I mean, feel free to share what you want to on this, Steve. But Steve has been, for lack of a better word, kind of kicked in the fucking jaw for 10 years here as a songwriter. But this year is a huge fucking exciting year for him. And if you kind of want to, embellish on how exciting it was in these past couple of days, I think it'd be cool for them to hear if you want to share that.
I just thought it was really cool because your dream as a songwriter is to always, I think, get the song. Okay, first of all, it's write a great song. Yes. And maybe not write a great song, but write a fucking great song that might be able to change people's lives. And then you have to get that song to a vehicle that's going to get it to maybe an artist, okay? If you're not going to be the artist singing it, your job is, okay, I really want to get it to Keith Urban. I really want to get it to Tim McGraw. I really want to get it to Pink, Carrie Underwood, whatever the hell it was. And it's a hard thing to do. If you don't have a publishing deal, it's a very tough thing to do. And so I think just in the past couple of days, I think with all this momentum of what we're doing, and like I just think the universe is massaging our shoulders and saying, okay, now you're in the right place, man. I'm protecting your vortex. Let's fucking do this shit.
That's real shit.
And so it was really cool because I got a song that was listened to by one of my favorite country artists, and it was Keith Urban, and he actually personally listened to it. I've never had a song, I think, actually like listened to by a recording artist, like where they heard my voice on a demo or whatever, and he listened to it. And I'll tell you what he said. He said, not for him. But the fact was...
Great tune, but not for him.
Yeah, but I will tell you this. The fact is, a year ago, I couldn't do that. I could never have Keith Urban listen to my song. Okay, I couldn't do that, and
I hope that's giving you guys chills right now. This is 10 years, and now Keith Urban personally listens to it,
and it's great. And finally, okay, and I will tell the audience this: if you would take my song, yes, I would be so grateful. I'd be so fucking humble. But I will tell you, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't tell someone to fucking pinch me because I've been in this game and I fucking bombed my fucking boundaries for 10 years in this town, and it has not been easy, but I stayed in it. I stayed true, and my success is not going to come as a surprise to me. My success, I'm going to be so happy and excited and grateful as a motherfucker. But I am also going to say that is what bombing your boundaries is about. Okay, that's what that is what the hard work is. And if I could have probably 5 years ago just said, fuck this. Our band broke up. My songs are getting turned down. What am I doing? Okay, I could just go back home and live. Okay, it's so much cheaper to live back home. I could be by my family. It'd be so much safer. It'd be so much more comfortable. And if I did that, who the fuck knows what would have happened in my life? I'm here to fucking stay. I'm here to fucking die with this. Okay? And that's what you all have to do as creators.
Absolutely, man. I'm scared to think what would have happened. And dude, you served as an inspiration for me, man, because while I didn't move back home, I did take that safe route, but you served as an inspiration because you never fucking quit, dude. And I just like always admire that. And now I'm back in with you, so thanks for being that light for me too, man.
I mean, if it wasn't for you and wasn't with your poetry and all this stuff, I mean, I wouldn't be wearing the shirt I am right now. And neither would half America.
Well, that's why we want to bring, the fucking brotherhood that we have to all of you guys, man. And I think this is a perfect place to kind of end this. I think you guys definitely got to know us on a deeper level. If you like this, if you got value out of it, reach out to us, please. bombersandsleeves@gmail.com. Tell us your story. We want to hear it. I want to know what you're going through. We want to know what you're going through. Be sure to go over to bombersandsleeves.com. Sign up for our mailing list. You get 10% off of your entire order on your first order there. And then also, we're the most active on Instagram, so follow us at Bombers and Sleeves on Instagram. Comment on our posts. Tell us what you think about the podcast. We're going to do a monthly drawing. If you go over to iTunes or you make a comment on one of our posts about what you think about the podcast and how it kind of relates to your journey, we're going to give you a free shirt once a month. So that's a kind of contest that we're doing here. So yeah, just rate and review, share if you found value in this. I mean, we want to spread this as far and wide as we can. You heard a lot tonight, and I think it's widely applicable to not only the music industry or writing or anything like that, but really anything. So if this has helped you, please, email, DM, whatever you got to do to get this out there. And Steve, do you have anything else to say, man?
I was just gonna say, stay tuned for the next couple of podcasts too, or for all of them, because we got some really great guests coming up. We've got creative directors from publishing companies, we've got producers, we've got artists, we've got photographers, we've got just all different kind of sorts of creatives, and not just music. So if you have a passion, you have a vision, you have a dream, we'll probably have someone on here that's has a similar vision as you, and we want them to tell their story, and maybe you will get some insight from them.
Definitely, yeah, because this is way bigger than this company and way bigger than us. And like we said, once we started sharing this vision out to people, it was incredible, the response that we got back on how many people are going through similar things and just haven't articulated it like that. So thank you guys so much. We love you. This is fucking great.
Bomb your boundaries, baby.
Peace.